Welcome into the Illini Inquirer podcast. Jeremy Werner, Joey Wagner, getting you ready for the Big Ten tournament, which has already started. And we wanted to record the Big Ten tournament preview when we knew who Illinois would play in the first round. And for about an hour and 15 minutes, we thought that was certainly going to be Michigan, but they blow a 17-point lead to a bad offensive team in Indiana. It's a tough watch for Indiana, but Michigan allowed a 28-4 run. Indiana holds on and they advance, which is huge for their NCAA tournament resume. And they probably have played themselves at least into the play-in game. Win over Illinois would certainly solidify their NCAA tournament bid and maybe play them out of the play-in game. So, Joey, we're going to break this down, look ahead to what Illinois really can gain from this Big Ten tournament. I think it's taken a different kind of approach, kind of look than last year coming into this thing. But I do, before we start, I do just want to throw out there that thoughts and our prayers with Ben Miller, Illinois football assistant coach, the tight ends and special teams coordinator. We just got word from Illinois, a press release from Ben with a statement saying that he's undergoing treatment for colon cancer. He's going to start chemotherapy very shortly. Ben has several children and a wife. So I'm just thinking of him and his family and hope he can pull through this, Joey, because in my interaction with him, he's been nothing but a good dude and obviously very well respected in that building and in the industry. So just thoughts and prayers with his family. Hopefully it's just a temporary thing. So kick cancer's ass, Ben.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough email to get in the inbox today. Ben's been great with us. I mean, I think you hear James McCourt had a really nice tweet about him and how much, of an impact Ben had in just 1 year with James. So thinking of Ben, man, that's a tough one. That's really tough to hear. Yeah.
So we'll talk with Brett Bielema, Tanka right or later today. So we'll have a little bit of Illinois football squeezed into the postseason for Illinois basketball, but we know that's what people care about right now. And Joey, after winning a Big Ten championship, the Big Ten tournament is taken on. It's not as important, right? Which, not to say it's not important. It'd be great for Illinois to go and win this thing, to be one of only 4 teams in Big Ten tournament history since it started in '98, to go back to back, to get another banner would further solidify the run and validate the run that Brad Underwood and his program are under. But this weekend won't define the season. It felt like they went in last year thinking the Big Ten tournament is going to define our season. In many ways, given the early exit to the NCAA tournament, it was the high point of the season. And Illinois certainly doesn't want this weekend to be the high point of the season, but they want it to be another high point, right? So I hope I phrased that correctly. It's like, this is an important weekend. It's a fun weekend. It's one of my favorite events to cover. But for Illinois, this certainly isn't the end all be all this year.
No, and that bit them last year. They put everything, and Brad Underwood is so good at putting the nuggets of they're doubting you, they don't think you're good enough into his players. And this is kind of like the first time, and I'm sure it wasn't all on him. I know those guys wanted a banner, but it bit them. They got all the way up, and I think of it as like an emotional well, and they drained it all in the Big Ten tournament. And, they did. They wanted to prove that they were the best team in the Big Ten, and they felt like that was really their only recourse to do so, because they felt really screwed out of a Big Ten championship. You can agree or disagree with that if you'd like. I'm sure most of the people on here will agree with that. But yeah, this isn't it. But I do think it's really kind of an interesting balance to find, because Illinois is not walking into this thing like, well, if we do, we do. If we don't, we don't. See you. It's not how they're approaching it. They're planning on winning this thing. But to me, it just feels like a step on their path to where they want to go, and that's New Orleans at the first week of April. So it's interesting to try to dissect exactly what this thing means. A lot, but not. Yeah. I don't even want to say not as much as last year, but somewhere in that mix.
Yeah, like it's almost like, I don't know if we want to just give full credit towards, hey, winning the Big Ten tournament was the reason they were bad in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
listen,
Loyola gives them credit too.
Yeah, they didn't play well. Brad didn't probably have a great game himself in adjustments or getting his players to adjust. But I do think there was a little bit of a hangover there. And we've talked all about it with the players this week. I wrote about it that day as they're celebrating this huge moment. They really didn't get a chance to celebrate because Iowa's on the ladder and there's number 1 seed. And it's like, oh, here we go. And after a little bit of the amazing celebration with Kofi and Georgie, it was go to your hotel room by yourself. Like there was no real like celebration because you're in quarantine, you're staying in Indianapolis, and you were that for 4 days outside of practice. And then you start and you dismantle Drexel because it's Drexel, but you didn't play all that well. And then you just came out flat against a really, really good Loyola team that was underseeded. So I don't want to give all the credit, but I do think Brad Underwood is correct. And I do think the lack of experience in an NCAA tournament played a role there. So I don't think they apologize for putting so much into a Big Ten tournament, but that doesn't mean I think they're going to come out flat against Indiana. It's a 10:30 early tip. Indiana's playing for more than you. So that is a little bit concerning. But I do think with the leadership of this team, with Trent Frazier, with DeMonte Williams, with Brad Underwood as well, and Kofi Coburn going through what they did last year, I think this is a team that's going to be focused. I think it's a team that's hungry for every little bit of success, and knowing that, hey, we only have so many times to put on this uniform. Let's go win another banner, and then we can refocus, reset, and then we can make our deep run of the NCAA tournament, because they could set up their NCAA tournament a lot better, Joey, if they do well this weekend. I talked with Brad Evans, the bracketologist at Bally Sports, and he said, hey, if they go to the championship game, they might solidify a 3 seed and put themselves into the conversation for a 2 seed if everything else goes right for them at other tournaments. And if they lose tomorrow to Indiana, they're probably going to be a 4 seed, which the difference between a 5 and playing a 5 or 6 in the round of 32 might be a little negligible, but you want to set yourself up in the best place, best location that you can go to. And you also want to set yourself up with the best draw and avoid maybe the 1 seeds as long as you possibly can. So they still got a lot to play for this weekend and trying to boost that NCAA tournament seeding.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's March. Like, I think we've kind of gone past this team has more to play for than this team. Like you said, you're trying to play for seeds. You're trying to play for, you want to go into this thing with some momentum. I mean, I don't think you'd like to go into the NCAA tournament having lost to Indiana as the last thing. So I just think there's still a lot out there. And no, it's probably not going to end up in a number 1 seed. I think we can all objectively look at that and say that's just not going to be the case unless that's just not going to be the case.
Yeah, so, they got 8 losses, right? They got 8 losses and not enough quad 1 wins.
But there's still a lot out there, and I think they do want to repeat too. They do want that, but there's a 2 seed even feels a little high to me, and not impossible, but like
it take breaks. You
get some breaks, and I think you'd also probably need to look really stinking good in these 2 games. I thought Brad Evans' point about the championship games kind of really not that big of a deal in terms of seeding. I thought that was an interesting point, and
it should be. I mean, if Illinois beats Iowa in the semifinal and then beats, Purdue, that should probably matter. I mean, I don't know if it's going to put you above one of those 2 seeds, but those would be 2 of the biggest wins for Illinois of the season. And does it put them above? It should put them above Purdue. I can tell you that much, who right now Brad has a 2 seed, and put them above Wisconsin, which right now is a 3 seed. So I think putting yourself at the top of the Big Ten potentially for seeding could get you to a 2 seed. Because if you're the Big Ten regular season champion and the Big Ten tournament champion, it's hard not to argue for a 2 seed.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's also really hard to do. It's only been done 9 times to win the regular season and the tournament. We're sitting here, Jeremy, and watching Iowa. Boy, that's probably not.
Doesn't that make that win look even better? I mean, Iowa is rolling right now, and then they're crushing Northwestern. Not that says a lot, but for me, it's one of the easiest picks for me in the Big Ten to make this Sweet 16. Like I love how they're playing right now, and it just makes that defensive effort in the second half that much more impressive. So I know, like, you barely won that game. I know you got down 15 and it took some missed free throws, but that defensive effort, I think, says a lot about Illinois, because Iowa looks as dangerous as anybody in the country offensively.
Oh man. I mean, we've thought it for a while. Like, we thought that was kind of Iowa was going to have the chance to really spoil a lot of confetti celebrations on Sunday night. And I still think they're a really, really freaking good team, but it's at this point, there's no more bad teams you're going to play. I mean, you probably, unless you get a good seed and you end up playing a 15 or even a 14, you're probably not going to be challenged in that game. But this is it, man. They're good every time you wake up, and that's what makes this thing fun.
Yeah. All right, so Indiana makes that furious comeback. Ken Pom has Illinois as a 3-point favorite over Indiana on a neutral site. Illinois fans will definitely be there, but it's going to be Assembly Hall North there, right? I mean, Indiana fans are going to be revved up. They're probably going to make the NCAA tournament now for the first time since 2016, which is a huge deal for them. Their run recently has been like Illinois from 14 to 19. It just reminded me of that, but they come back today to get that one. And we know they're good defensively. I mean, remember the first half, even though Trace Jackson Davis was out most of that first half, Indiana played great defense. And that was a really, really close game that Illinois needed a little run to make it a game at halftime. But then Illinois blew them open. Trent Frazier goes off in the second half. But it's a team you have played very well recently, Joey. And Trace Jackson Davis, who was phenomenal in the second half today, has not played well against Kofi Coburn. I was looking at the numbers this year, 23 minutes, 6 points on 3 of 9 shooting. And then you go back to last year, he played 40 minutes in that overtime loss to Illinois in Bloomington, had 19 and 14, but he was 6 of 18 from the field. So really inefficient. And then last year in State Farm Center, he had 11 points on 3 of 13 shooting. So he's their best player by far. And Race Thompson's very good, has given Illinois some issues. I think Coleman Hawkins playing the way he is a good sign for Illinois, but Trace Jackson Davis, Kofi has certainly had his number, and Illinois' guards are just better. Indiana's a tough watch at times. Illinois' guards are better. So if they come with energy, I like this matchup. I just think it's a good matchup given that your strength tops their strength.
Yeah, I think you wanted this over Michigan. I don't care what Michigan's record is. I know they completely bungled any chance to advance today, but dude, there's still a ton of talent on that team. Like Michigan played Illinois very close in Ann Arbor. You just don't want to see that team. In Indiana, you're right. I mean, the matchup pretty much everywhere favors Illinois at every spot on the floor in this. We'll see if I'm curious if Indiana starts feeling itself a little bit after that big comeback today in that building. There could be a lot of 3-day Hoosier weekends probably scheduled to get there for a 10:30 game, but Illinois still matches up really well with Indiana. And when your best player can mitigate their other team's best player and probably have an advantage, not probably, Kofi does have an advantage in these matchups. You're right, guards, it's not even close, I don't think. It's especially with Andre Curbelo starting to come on here. And remember, I thought DeMonte did a really nice job on Race Thompson in Bloomington. And now you have him and you have Coleman Hawkins. We don't know what's going on with Jacob Grandison in terms of his availability. It sounds more promising than not long-term, but we don't know what that'll mean in Indianapolis. But yeah, man, if you're Illinois, you're probably watching that, even though Brad insists he doesn't watch games. You're probably monitoring that, hoping Indiana gets out of there with the win, because that may have been the first game I've seen them close out this year. They have been disastrous in closeout situations.
And Xavier Johnson's had some nice games here, actually, recently. He's also had some rough ones, man. So that can be an issue. He's a bigger guard. So even if Trent Frazier, I would imagine, would be on him. Parker Stewart, Alfonso Plummer, you better be locked in. You can't let Parker Stewart beat you, right? So I think it's going to be very important for Alfonso Plummer to be locked in. Otherwise, Andre Curbelo should certainly steal some of his playing time, because they're going to try and muck it up, right? Indiana's going to try and out physical you. And that'd be my only concern. Like if Illinois plays well, like just above average, I feel like they should have a really good chance to win this one. But Indiana's going to be fired up. They're going to have confidence now after today, nothing to lose, everything to gain with beating Illinois. Well, like we talked about, Illinois wants to win this one, but it's not the end all be all for them right now. I still think they're going to play hard, right? But like Indiana might have a little bit of an edge at 10:30 Central Time in the morning with a fired up Indiana crowd. So that would be my only concern there. But that alleviates a little bit knowing this team, knowing Brad Underwood.
Yeah, Brad will have him ready. I think there's going to be a lot of references pointed back to last year and being flat in some of those practices after the Big Ten tournament championship. And I think, to your point, experience. I mean, Trent Frazier hardly got the water off of his hands in the locker room celebration, and he was ready to turn this thing over. And I'm sure he would have taken the team back to Ubben that night and gotten in a full 2 hours of practice if he could.
Well, can I mention, like yesterday we were talking to Trent and he was giving us good answers, but it was just kind of no inflection in his voice. It was very business-like, almost like he didn't want to be there. Like, and I told you, I go, I think he's just locked in. I think he's just, all right, business time. I think he's locked in. I think having that is really important because I do think even a guy like him, after winning the Big Ten tournament last year, they're probably like, hey, we're a 1 seed. We're going to get to the Sweet 16, and then we'll really focus. That probably got the most of them back then. So I think that's been the story of the season, is the lingering of the Loyola game, and it's coming into play now. And I think it starts this weekend.
I think, as we've talked about Brad's ability to turn the needle a little bit and get people going. How many times did Trent say that they are every team's Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I promise you, I promise you that comes from the gentleman from the Pizza Hut parking lot. Like, we just know, we've covered Brad long enough to know that I would bet he sent a text out Sunday night like, hey, you're the Super Bowl from now on. Like, that's what he does. And when you have your two guys, your two super seniors, I have to believe DeMonte Williams believes that as well. And not to say it's just those two, but when you have kind of the head of the snake of the locker room really believe that, and then you have direct evidence, Loyola, yeah, man. And really even Penn State, right? I thought Penn State played their butts off against Illinois. So when you have all of those, like, the evidence is there to back up what Brad says. That's why I think that, I don't know if they're going to win the whole thing. I'd probably not pick them to do that, but I just don't think Indiana is going to be where they go home on Friday.
Yeah. So Indiana hasn't been to a Big Ten tournament semifinal since 2008. It's been a very long time. Like, even when they get good teams with Tom Crean, they don't go very far in this tournament. So Illinois got to keep that stat going. So if they get to the semis, I think right now we would both have Iowa in there, right? Even though Iowa's got to play another game before Purdue or before Rutgers, they're obviously crushing. They're up by 33 at halftime over Northwestern.
1.8 points per possession in the first half. That's a video game. Sorry, but good Lord.
They won't have that against Rutgers. I would imagine it'll be a little bit more competitive of a game, but can Rutgers hang with them offensively? I don't know. I think Iowa's going to be in that semi based on what we know. Either way, Joey, both those teams, I mean, I know Illinois blew out Rutgers, but Rutgers blew out you. I like playing Rutgers away from the rack a heck of a lot more than playing them in New Jersey. But both those teams can pose matchup issues, right? I mean, they're both big, long, they are good fours. Rutgers, especially with their length at the guard positions, can really bother Illinois. And Cliff Omorui's has played really well against Kofi the last time out. So I don't know if I prefer one of those teams. I think Iowa's the better team. So, but I'd love to see that rematch again. I'd love to see a round 3 of Illinois. It's hard to beat Iowa 3 times in a season, I would imagine, but that'd be a fun matchup again.
Here's what I would say. I'd almost rather see Rutgers. They're not a very deep team.
Yeah.
So when you start,
I think you'd rather play Rutgers. I'm just from my perspective, entertainment value, Illinois, Iowa.
Sure. Yeah. If you're Illinois, you probably want Rutgers because it's going to be close with Iowa. They're not very, what do they play? 6 or 7 guys. I mean, it's not many. You're talking back to back, that thing adds up. It might be cliche. I don't know, but entertainment value. Yeah, please. Iowa, Illinois. That is the gift that keeps giving for watching fun basketball over the last few years. Those matchups have been awesome.
Illinois won 5 in a row, but man, they've been entertainment matchups. All right, let's go to the other side of the bracket. I think this one's going to be more fascinating, even starting with Maryland against Michigan State. Maryland played Michigan State really well the last time, but Michigan State, I mean, they're tanking right now. While Maryland, Fats Russell, he's going to be the best guard on the court. We know Dante Scott can be really, really good. Eric Ayala's had a couple of good games here recently. So I hate to say I love Maryland in that matchup, but I do like them. And then whoever gets them are playing Wisconsin, which are they going to have Johnny Davis? Sounds like it. That's what Wisconsin's signaling. But is it going to be the same Johnny Davis? I'm not sure. Either way, I think that's going to be fascinating, whoever comes out of that against Wisconsin. And then if Ohio State takes care of business against Penn State, which I would expect they would, that's going to be a fascinating matchup. Ohio State against Purdue. I'll go with Purdue, even though they haven't earned trust at this point. They're just more talented. They got more options. So that bottom half of the bracket, I don't love Purdue right now, but I still like them. I think they got good draws especially with the concerns about Johnny Davis and whether he'll be available and how good he'll be.
Yeah, I like Purdue out of that. Ohio State's interesting because Kyle Young, it doesn't sound like will go tonight against Penn State. And I think they reported Zed Key was a game time. We'll see, but I still will take EJ against Penn State and
Brandon.
and against a lot of teams. But I know Purdue is tripping a little bit, a lot of bit. That you could have made the argument they should have lost to Indiana, but the Hoosiers just refused until today to close out a game. But man, I still believe that these things are made for stars. Jaden Ivey is a freaking star. Now we'll see what happens if they get Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis said on his award when he was accepting the Big Ten Player of the Year that he's good to go. I think it would have been odd if he would have stepped up there and said, not it for me.
Yeah, he wouldn't have said it if he was able to go, right?
But yeah, I think that's probably, I don't want to say a little more open, but you could see Purdue or Wisconsin. I mean, really, I think this comes down, sorry to Rutgers, but I think this comes down to 4 teams, right? Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa. In what order, I don't know. And who's going to play on Sunday, I don't know. But I think those are right now, today, the 4 best teams in this thing.
The one team I think can be a sleeper here is Maryland. I really do. Because I just think they have talent. They're going up against 2 kind of wounded teams in Michigan State and Wisconsin. I'm not going to, maybe I'll pick them to beat Maryland or beat Michigan State just for fun. But I just think Fats Russell's playing so well. Eric Ayala is good enough. Their front court is talented enough. And we've seen them win some games here recently that I feel like they're the one underrated team or kind of low ranked team here that could make a run, say, to the semis, surprisingly, and then probably bow out to a Purdue. But I'm just saying, they intrigue me. But yes, I agree with you. I think this is Illinois, Purdue, Iowa, and Wisconsin, if Wisconsin has Johnny Davis.
Can we talk about how crazy it is in the year 2022, the year of our Lord, Jeremy, that both Michigan schools might be the heck out of here before Illinois plays its first game?
I used to tell Graham Couch all the time at the Lansing State Journal, Graham, I never see you at the Big Ten tournament because I was out of there by Wednesday or Thursday and he'd show up on Friday. That might be the case now. Yeah, I won't see Graham Couch at this tournament if Michigan State bows out today.
He's kind of an enigma at this point, Graham Couch. Graham, if you're out there, where are you, man?
Stay low.
That is crazy. That's crazy how, I mean, if you would have told me that, I think the last tournament I covered was in Chicago. So Iowa's freshman year. I know last year it happened, but if you would have told me then, hey, in 3 years, Illinois is going to play, but both Michigan schools already be knocked out before then.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. I mean, that's wild. We don't know if it's going to happen, but it's halfway there.
Yeah. So, Joey, this is one of my favorite events to cover. I hope we're there a couple days. I do think we will be. I think we'll be there through Saturday. I think Iowa would be a very tough matchup. Illinois obviously is capable of winning this whole dang thing. But if anybody has a chance, Friday of the Big Ten tournament is the best day. Saturday is great. 2 high-level games, usually between top 25 teams. And Sunday, electric. Last year was one of the best games I've seen live with Illinois and Ohio State. And the celebration afterwards was really, really cool, especially with the families being able to actually see their sons in person for the first time in a very long time. That was really cool. But think about this. We'll have Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Rutgers, Wisconsin, and either Michigan State or Maryland, and Ohio State, Purdue. If you can get 2 session tickets, go get those 2 sessions. It's a phenomenal day of basketball. It's one of my favorite events, and Indy is the best. I'm sorry. I've grown up on the outskirts of Chicago, far, far south suburbs, but this city does it right. Indy just does it right because it's such a big deal. It's so easy to get around. And it's the biggest event there. Chicago is just so big. There's so much going on. That's not the biggest event there. So this is my favorite place to have it, Joey.
I don't want to derail us. Baseball's back.
I saw that. I was going to end with that.
Back. Okay. Sorry. Well, good news. Welcome back, baseball. I've never covered it in Indy. I keep hearing of St. Elmo. That's a new one for me. I've not been. I'm just excited to see the atmosphere because I've heard so much about how Indy does it right, and everywhere's got their own bar downtown, and everything's kind of got its own feel and flair, and it's all there. And then you put really, really good games on Friday, dude. Really good basketball games in the same place. It's a dream. I mean, this is This is awesome. I'm excited to see what Indy's all about, how they do it. It'll be nice to see fans, like a full force of fans.
Well, last year, Joe, I know we only got 2 from our outlet and you were the odd man out. Sorry about that, by the way.
Okay.
But I was the odd man out for the NCAA tournament as well. So Piper was the only one there. Last year when we got there, and it was 5,000 fans and half of Lucas Oil, right? Which is not very many. It felt like tens of thousands. And now to have all those fans back, like, come on, think about the atmospheres we saw at State Farm Center or Mackey Arena was ridiculous this year when we saw it. It's awesome to have them back. And this is one of the best because you get all those split level fans cheering back and forth at each other. It's just so good to have that back, right? It's just awesome.
The last time I was in Indianapolis for a game was Illinois Baylor. It was at the Champions Classic, if I'm not mistaken. Dude, they didn't even have music. Like, it was just tarps over chairs. And I mean, we were seated up on the moon, so I can only imagine Brad Underwood was screaming down on the floor. But all we heard was sneakers and like an occasional, like, oh, there's nothing going on. Here's 14 seconds of a song and back to nothing. So I'm excited. Just, I mean, the atmosphere and getting all of those fans for what Illinois hopes is playing on Sunday. Can you imagine if that's Illinois and Purdue on Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it'd be a party.
Who's your pick to win it, Joe?
Dang it.
I picked Iowa here. I can't blame him. I can't.
Yeah,
it mean a lot for Iowa. I mean, think about them. They didn't win with Luka Garza. They didn't win a Big Ten title with Luka Garza, right? So to win it now, I can see them making the run and doing it.
Yeah, I can too. I get a lot though of Illinois vibes from Purdue from last year, like the FU, we didn't win the Big Ten. Right now, they didn't feel like, I'm sure they don't feel screwed out of it. They lost games.
But they lost like the heartbreaker games. I mean,
yeah,
games.
I feel like they're just gonna, like, they've got this. Come at us. We have so much talent. The heck with everybody in our way, bulldozer. And look, they're going to draw some people to this thing too. This isn't just Indiana's home, by itself. Purdue's going to bring a lot of folks. I'll take Purdue. I can already hear everybody like ending the podcast at this exact point in time, but Purdue over Illinois, I think.
Yeah. I'll go with you, Joe. I'll back you up there, which I think would be a good weekend for Illinois, right? I know losing 3 times to Purdue would be bad, but if you made another tournament championship game, you'd feel good about a 3 seed going to the NCAA tournament and then go exercise the actual demons. That's the thing that matters. Get to the second weekend of the tournament.
Yeah, here's what I find interesting really quickly about that is, and I asked Brad and I asked Kofi about this yesterday. Remember a year ago they left? It's like, well, we're in Indy until we're not. Like, sure, I get it. The NCAA tournament, it's fun. It's this experience. But isn't part of it like we're in Milwaukee and we got to fight our butts off to get out of Milwaukee and get to, now we're in Chicago and you've got all these bus rides. And it's easier, I think, to compartmentalize what you've done and what's coming up. I just feel like that matters. And it's hard as heck to sit in a hotel room in one city. Like, imagine Baylor, for instance. How long were they in the same hotel? Or maybe it was one of 2, I don't know, for a month. That sounds horrible. I just feel like this ability to go hit a new city every weekend, if that's how far you get, like, that sounds really invigorating if you're a player or a coach, even a fan base.
Milwaukee to Chicago, New Orleans sounds like a pretty fun trip.
Is that it? I'm not missing one. I'd just be 3 cities, right?
Yeah. Milwaukee, yeah, because you'd have that, or Indianapolis to Chicago, right? Like, you'd have your top 3 seed and likely top 4 seed. I would imagine you get to Milwaukee or Indianapolis for the first round. And if you're in the Midwest, which you hope to be, I think you'd obviously get Chicago there. So that'd be a heck of a run. Yeah, one of us should pick Illinois, right? I mean, people are rioting listening to this. That neither of us.
One of us should. It won't be me. So I guess if you would like to do that.
Well, I'm going with the Ken Pom, right? Ken Pom had Purdue the likeliest win. I like Purdue's path better in Illinois. It's like,
yeah.
I think Illinois is playing one of the top 3 teams in the Big Ten right now, maybe top 2 team. I think Iowa's right now. If you put a blank NCAA tournament bracket in front of me, I think I'd have Illinois in the Sweet 16. I think I'd have Iowa. I think those would be my 2 most confident in the Big Ten. I do. I think those two I would feel the most confident because Iowa's offense is ridiculous and they're starting to play defense. And then Illinois, they're the most balanced team. So I think they can play many different styles, many different types of games. Purdue, I just worry about the first round with them. I don't know if they're going to come out flat. Now with Zach Edey, should be fine. Jade Ivey should be fine. I just don't know what I'm getting each day out of them.
Yeah, I don't either. And here's my hesitancy to here's why the argument I could make to pick Illinois. Just to bring some, I mean, outside of they're really good. Coleman Hawkins and Andre Curbelo, that tandem interests the heck out of me.
Andre Curbelo played well against Iowa. For all you guys that didn't see it.
Look, he does. There are times he gives and he takes. That's part of this experience, man. And I know it's frustrating, but buckle up because that's what it's going to be. You
need him. You need him. And it's not just offensive. He had 14 points and 6 assists and 4 turnovers. And the 4 turnovers, there's a couple that you just got to stop. You got to stop, but I don't know if you're going to get it to stop. But his defense was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so was Coleman Hawkins. I will agree with you, Joey. If I knew you're getting Coleman Hawkins and Andre Curbelo B level or higher games, Illinois is going to win the Big Ten tournament and go very far in the NCAA tournament.
We've talked a lot about Coleman Hawkins. I know you've talked to LaTulip a lot about Coleman Hawkins. Holy crap. Look, let's not sugarcoat anything. A month and a half ago, we we're like, oh boy, what is going on with this guy? His in-season turnaround and just what he gets. He is 6'10". He's not EJ, right? He's not that kind of 4, but he is the 4 that Illinois has missed for a long time. And he's the 4 that you don't have to put DeMonte Williams against, I don't know, Grace Thompson. I mean, his turnaround, what he's done has been really just fascinating to watch. And then you put in the other wrinkle of Curbelo, who I think he's been playing. I mean, I know Penn State wasn't very good, but I think you could probably put team-wide Penn State wasn't very good for Illinois. But the way he's playing and figuring out what he's got to do, and you live with the headaches. You live with some of the turnovers. I mean, I'm thinking of one transition pass that was just a little too much that you probably don't need. You live with that because then he does whatever behind the back, finger roll, layup, and he plays the heck out of defense when Alfonso Plummer doesn't.
Yep.
And you need that. And I am curious a little bit about RJ Melendez. What does he bring? Can you have 3 X factors?
Yeah. And Jacob Grandison being out hurts, right? Because he's so reliable. He's such a good shooter. But if you can get a made 3 a game from RJ Melendez and some solid defense and Luke Goody to make a 3 every couple games, you can make up for it, right? While Coleman Hawkins, what's one of the biggest issues we've been talking about? Guarding 4s. He can do that. Andre Curbelo, what's one of the biggest issues? Well, when you're not making 3s and Kofi has an off game, you're really bad offensively. Well, Curbelo can go get you buckets in a second half where you need buckets and create for other people. 15 of the last 20 points against Iowa. Those 2 things cover up some of their biggest issues. So that's why Trent Frazier said, we feel we're peaking at the right time. I think it's all about those guys. Because I think you know what you're getting out of Kofi. I think you know what you're getting out of Trent and DeMonte and when Grandison's on the floor. But now if you can add those 2 guys, your ceiling just goes way higher. And that's when you become the Big Ten tournament favorite or the NCAA Final Four contender that everyone hoped they could be. Because you've seen some growing out of those guys the last month. And if you can hit their stride and hit their peaks here going into March, you're really, really dangerous. So maybe that's why we could look stupid by not picking Illinois, because Coleman Hawkins and Andre Curbelo were fantastic in the Big Ten tournament.
I was just going to say, as we say this, I'm sitting here why am I not picking them?
Because we're haters.
Because we are haters. And please tweet at us and remind us that we are haters. We'd love reading.
Hey, I would love to cover another Big Ten tournament championship, and I would love to be in Indianapolis until Sunday. So I will be very happy if that happens personally.
Hey, I could go for a steak every here and again for an extended stay in Indy. But yeah, we do seriously though, we do say that, and that's a real, it's those two are playing well right now. You got to carry it. You got to carry it in a little bit. And I don't want to say look past. They should not look past Indiana. For my planning purposes, I am thinking like, what does Saturday look like against Iowa? And that's freaking exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing is Trent Frazier's due a game, right? He's due one of those hot streaks, and Alfonso Plummer is going to have one.
Probably don't need to waste against Indiana. Save it for Iowa if you're Trent Frazier and Alfonso Plummer. Indiana won't hit a lot of threes. I don't want to say no.
I think you'll take it just to make sure you're cruising to Saturday, but bird in the hand, you'll take that. All right, Joey Wagner, thank you, buddy. See you in Indianapolis.
All right, man. See ya.
All right, everybody, have a fun weekend. Enjoy the Big Ten tournament. Enjoy tweeting at us when Illinois wins it. We'll appreciate that when it happens. Everybody, thank you for listening to the Illini Inquirer podcast. Give us a follow, rating, review wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Illini Inquirer. We're going to have plenty of content. I'll have a story on Kofi Coburn, 4th year. That's a tease. We'll talk about that at some point on the site, but we'll cover everything throughout the tournament as well. Everybody take care of each other. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.